says live on my thing. 0 drop frames.
Oh.
Oh.
We're doing something now. Let me see what this sounds like. Yep, there we go. You are live, sir.
Oh, thank goodness. All right,
Okay.
Let me stop that. All right. Okay. Take 2. Sorry about that. Sorry for being late. I thought my system could handle this such and such. We're gonna do it faceless this week. Everyone, welcome to the game room. This is Chris and Rob Game Room, and I'm Chris, Robert, and Joe. We're here to talk about our Brewers Corner, a Beholder teams that we're doing. It's inspired from Joe's signature card, the Common Beholder that he brought to events at the WKOs, and we just really liked it, and it's kind of how we started hanging out and talking to Joe. Is just that dang Beholder.
Yep. If you didn't have that cool card, man, I don't know if this would have worked out.
No.
Yeah, I mean, really, the Beholder was my big break. I just
Yep.
started, it spoke to the brewer in me. So that's
No.
actually the same with like a lot of other people. They wouldn't have talked to me if I didn't.
No.
Like if I would have had if I would have come up there with like the super rare Yanti, then I would have been like, "Look, Mister," and then it would have been like, "Oh, that's cool, kid. Get on my face."
Oh my God, that was me. No, you're.
There wouldn't have been anything special about it. But the fact that I was the only Beholder there,
Yeah.
and then everybody was like, "Oh, what you got there?" And I was still like, "Look, Mister," but at least it was more interesting.
I mean, we had talked to you, kind of traded things a little bit in the forums and all that before that, and then we talked to you at the event a whole lot, and me and Robert both thought you were a cool dude at the time. So
Yeah, not anymore,
the
but
time.
back then
And
we
then
thought
you
you
got
were
to
cool,
name
dude.
at the time when we met you is when that's our first impressions. Jesus Christ, dudes.
Yeah.
All right, I quit. I quit.
Robert, do you want to post this on the social medias?
All right.
I posted on Facebook a little bit ago.
Yeah, they might have gotten the whole waiting thing going on.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
So, Joe, what drew you to the Beholder? And you don't have to be specific about the version that you played. What really drew you to it?
So the thing about Beholder, I've always been in love with the D&D sets because they were so solid. And, the first Beholder was okay, but the problem was the cost on it. It had a decent stat line, and I was like, man, this is really great. But the problem was that they wanted to pay 6 to 7 energy for something that was all right, and the global was really specific again because D&D plays better in a closed setting. So you can cross play with D&D with the other sets like Marvel and DC. But in reality, D&D plays a whole lot better whenever you get one or more expansions together because they have themes that tie in together. But so the Beholder that we're going to be talking about today is the Faerun Under Siege Beholder, which all 3 rarities are 4-cost mask, and all 3 rarities have these really great abilities, as well as like this killer stat line 043, 054, 165. I mean, it's amazing all-around character design, and I just think they really knocked it out of the park whenever they made this one.
Yeah. The fact that it's all just 4 cost on all the versions, and it's just, oh my God, the stat line is so good. I only got 2 dice for it, and a lot of times, with the way I was doing stuff, that's kind of all I.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, it's all I needed. So. Yeah, I do. I love Beholder. I didn't really like Beholder all that much because I just thought about playing you on your team, and I just thought I would have like nightmares of playing you and be like, I can't get anything out.
Well, it's definitely you definitely have to have like a specific counter for it. Luckily, we're in Golden Age now since it's rotated out, and there's plenty of counters for it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're gonna go over my team first.
Ugh.
I know. So, oh, come on, catch up. There we go. All right. So my team what I really like about it, and what really kind of helps it out is, yes, I have the uncommon beholder. That's the one I got to brew with, and I really love the fact that I got to brew with that one. When fielded, you may move it to 2 action dice from your use pile, and put them into the prep area. And then the global on that it's on all the beholders, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay, so it's pay a generic move target spell die or an action dice or an action face in your reserve pool to beholder's card. At the beginning of your next roll and reroll step, return to your reserve pool on the same face. That is kind of a humongous thing for the team that I brewed, and it really helps out, and it really just makes the team just go really well. And I abused that global. And then another big one on this team is the fact that I have a rare Riddler from the Batman set. So when fielded, you may swap the purchase cost of 2 of your non-basic action die until the end of turn. The reason that that's really good is because I have the uncommon potion from the Farron Under Siege also, and that's target character die gets +3/+3 until for that turn, and then it goes to the use pile. And the double burst instead, target character die gets +5/+5. That's a really good thing, a really good potion to add for this team. And then the next thing I have is Bat Signal. I use that when I field Riddler. I switch the purchase cost of potion and Bat Signal to be able to buy 2 or 3 or even 4 potions in one turn. And I've actually did that a couple times, and it was interesting and gross. And the other purpose that the Bat Signal does, whenever you could use a global ability, you may send this die to the use pile to give target non-villain character die +1, and you may spin it up 1 level. That's kind of an interesting point, and I'll get to why that is in a moment. And then for ramp and prep, I have PXG, the rare, and then basically just have it for the global. Pay a mask, move up to 2 sidekick dice from your use pile to your prep area. It's pretty easy to put that on any team and just roll with it. And then I got Rip Hunter's chalkboard to be able to purchase stuff and put it over in the prep area as soon as possible. And then I got Wonder Woman, Child of Clay. So basically, while Wonder Woman is active, global abilities activated by your opponent cannot target character dice you control. The reason that one is so good is because I have mutation on the team. So pay a mask, spin 1 of your character dice down to spin another target character die up a level. That's to basically get the beholders down to level 1 at certain points, and that's to be able to, with my other basic action card, which is the upgrade smokescreen. Oh, and that one says target character die you control gets +1 attack. If it is a level 1 mask character die, it cannot be blocked this turn. And that gets really crazy because I try to get my beholders all the way down to level 1. And the moment that I can equip or put potions on them and possibly have a Bat Signal or 2 in the field, I'm going to try to swing, and the person's not going to be able to block you because you're going in unblocked. And then you use the Bat Signal, spin it up, then you mutate up and spin their character dice up, and you spin your you spin your beholders up to spin something else down in yours, and most likely the Riddler at that point, and you swing through for massive amounts of damage. And it really gets going pretty quickly. Robert played me quite a bit.
Yeah, it happened to me a couple of times. It's kind of disheartening because you're like, oh, I'm going to survive this attack. Yeah, no, you don't, because once he's been, he's unblocked, and at that point, you can't assign defenders anymore because of the smoke screen. And you're like, oh, let me just spin this up real quick, and there goes those 2 extra points of damage that I needed to kill you, and you're dead.
Yeah.
So disheartening.
So gross. So gross.
Yeah, it really is.
And I also have Merlin on the team as a backup win con. and also to make lightning in case whenever I field Rip Hunter, the Riddler, I can have another lightning bolt to buy as many potions as I can. What do you think about the team, Joe?
Can you hear me first of all? Because the audio was fading in and out. Okay, so I like it. I like this iteration. I like everything you have going on here. I mean, the potions just go really well with Merlin or Beholder. The fact that you can spin Beholder down, or the fact that you can just spin him down, target him with a smoke screen, and then spin him back up is just super fantastic here. Uh, and the whole Riddler trick, I just this version of Beholder to me is probably a lot more playable than the other two versions, and really because you don't have to do a lot to work around it. All you need are just good actions, basic or non-basic,
Mm-hmm.
and you can already benefit from using him.
Yeah, and his ability of being able to move actions over to the prep area, that's good and all, but if he gets blanked, it's really not that big a deal.
Well, I mean, but again, it's the most useful ability
Mm-hmm.
on the set of beholders. It's more useful than the common and the super rare even, because the common is still limited and you're taking up 2 slots versus just with this uncommon. All you need to do is, like I said, put a good action or two, basic or non-basic, on your team, and you can get value out of it.
Yeah, quite easily.
And Matt Jourdain agrees with you. He likes the build a lot, and he says, "Wait until we get the Avengers ID card. Build this with patch."
Oh, you are correct. That will be gross. Oh, I hate being teased with all the things going on lately. I feel like, so teasing.
Yeah, we've got spoilers to talk about whenever, because there's been a whole lot more stuff revealed since Origins, and no doubt people are gonna be frantically making videos tonight and tomorrow and putting them out.
Yeah, I wish I could show more, but just limited on the internet and stuff. So that's that team. I really like this team, and I like Beholder a whole lot more since playing this team, or since building and playing this team. So,
You're actually taking it to our event tomorrow.
That's correct. Robert made an event tomorrow at Duncanville. So if anyone in the DFW area wants to come play and test their might against this team and Robert's team, we'll be at Duncanville, probably getting our faces smashed by other people that can play better than us.
Yeah.
So
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go over to Robert's team.
Okay. Are we ready?
We are ready. Your team is up.
Okay, so my Beholder is the super rare Epic Aberration, which says, while Beholder is active, when you KO a character die using an action die, KO all other copies of that character die in play. And the global that Chris mentioned earlier, I'm not going to read it, but so my whole thing was, okay, we can do some shenanigans with this. I can KO a bunch of stuff in the field, KO all your sidekicks. Yeah, I might KO all mine, but that's not too bad. I was trying to run it with a what is her name? Agent Carter, and I just couldn't get it to work. But I was playing against Chris, and he was basically doing a mirror match with his Beholder team, so it was kind of hard to play against that. But so we changed it around, made some changes, and we went with this iteration. So we have the Beholder for his ability. Then we have the Dwarf Wizard rare for control. So everyone knows what that is. Basically, it's our blanker. We have Professor X for the global. Let's do Daredevil. So Daredevil, 3-cost fist, blind justice from the Thor set. While Daredevil is active, when an opposing villain character dies KO'd, gain 1 life. So life gain is never a bad thing, and these Daredevils are actually pretty good. This particular Daredevil is the best one. I didn't have it, so I had to make my own. So I just drew on one of these little blank inserts. That's beside the point. So that, in combination with the Billy Club, the 2-cost mask, strike true. deal 2 damage to target character die. Burst or double burst, if Daredevil is active, also deal 2 damage to another target character die or opponent. So that kind of opens it up here. So if I have my Daredevil in the field and I have my Beholder in the field and I'm playing around with these 2-cost Billy Clubs, I can take out some pretty uh, light defense characters. And if my opponent if I have Beholder out and the opponent has multiple, guess what? They're all going to get KO'd. So that's kind of what the idea was here, is to use that Billy Club to knock out multiple of the same die. And if I land on the burst, I'm also going to do 2 damage to my opponent, which kind of helps me out. So I also have a Scarlet Witch on the team. Hex bolts from the Doctor Strange team pack that says, while Scarlet Witch is active, when you use an action die, you may pay 1 to add it to your prep area. So after I'm using those Billy Clubs, I'm going to pay 1 and move it right back to my prep area so I can do it again next turn. And then I have Parallax for the global. Obviously, pay 1 and reroll any number of dice before your attack steps in case I don't get my rolls, my Billy Clubs that I need. The bad thing is, with having said all of that, how am I going to get to these things besides just PXG? So I decided, let me throw Rare Dark Side out there. Super Rare Dark Side. While Dark Side is active, your sidekicks gain Swarm. I was playing against Chris with this team, and I was just unloading my bag every single turn. It was awesome. So I was getting out all my Billy Clubs. I had enough energy just to put them back into the prep area. So I was just rolling my sidekicks, getting my Beholders out there. Everything was getting out into the field really, really fast. And then the basic actions I was using was Arch Nemesis, target character die you control, and target opposing character die deal damage to each other equal to their attack. So this is just another piece that I could use with Beholder to KO things. Then we have the global on there that's pay a shield. Target character die has defense equal to its attack. You can use that to get rid of some of the beefier characters like a Blob perhaps. And then use Billy Club on him. Bam, he's gone. And we have Resurrection, not for the ability, but again for the global, just to fix our bag, get our bag management going. And that's pretty much it. It was a good team. It actually went really well, except the mirror match against Chris didn't really work out because he had a Beholder. So if I knocked out my Beholder, if I knocked his out, I was knocking mine out. Beholder's my win condition, like I'm using the swing through with that big attack. So while I'm swarming all these sidekicks and PXGing my brains out or whatever, I'm buying all these Beholders to get them into the field so I can swing and do damage. And hopefully I'm KOing everything and clearing it out so I can get through.
And what's funny is Robert was like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to swarm my whole entire bag this turn. And he had like a sidekick in the bag and everything else was like actions or characters. And he had like 2 characters on his use pile, and he's like, "Oh, I probably won't be able to prep." He literally prepped his bag every single time when he had Dark Side out.
Every time, it was so glorious.
And honestly, this team is really good. It's just he was having a Beholder against him is just it's the counter to him for this team, really.
Yeah. So Matt, to answer your question, I thought about putting Mr. Miracle on the team, but I didn't want to have 3 super rares on there. And then also, like you said, it's a 50-50 shot. I wanted to guarantee it. I figure I'm going to have so much energy with the Sidekick Swarm and the PXG that I could just pay the 1 and get that action die back into my prep area.
Yeah. I mean, even with the ramp that you got, you possibly don't need that because you're going to be prepping your whole entire bag every time, but still.
Mm-hmm. Joe, what do you think?
So I really like the approach with Daredevil and Billy Club. I'm always happy to see somebody using that outside of draft. So kudos to you. The Scarlet Witch with Hex Bolts is a great idea as well. If you're gonna make best use of Darkseid and you're gonna be concerned with knocking your sidekicks out as well as their sidekicks out, whenever you hit one with Billy Club, for example, then I would recommend using the other rare Professor X from X-Men First Class. So that way, during your opponent's turn, you could save that mask and just put a sidekick out. And while your Darkseid's out, you can then reliably trigger Swarm every time.
That's a good point.
And without having to worry about saving up on sidekicks. So in the case that they wall up and you're just like, well, I don't want I don't want to get rid of their 8 sidekicks because I have my 1 and I want to make sure I get swarm. So
Yeah.
like that's also an option. And then what was the other thing? So yeah, I mean, over Scarlet Witch, what I would actually do is I'd run the super rare Malekith. Now I know you don't want to go too hard on super rares, but super rare Malekith also puts them back into your bag after you use them, and while with your swarming going off so much, you can reliably have them back.
That's true. Also, I think the reason I think I went with Professor X was so I can get to Dark Side faster
Yeah. Oh yeah.
with this
So
DXG.
we mused earlier because whenever we were talking about it behind the scenes, all those that are watching, I was like, well, this card isn't so hard to work with because you've got stuff like common doppelganger or super rare mimic. You can copy their dice and then use stuff like Blue Eyes White Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
and then just KO your dude, and it KOs their copies while you have Beholder out. And that was an avenue that we had talked that I had mentioned, because this is actually a fun build around card.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was challenging, but it was also pretty fun. I like this team, especially the swarming, and you just get those action dice out and get them every turn pretty much.
I will note that out of all the builds, yours is actually the one that has the most control options.
Yeah. Yeah.
Control.
Well, I mean, the control. I guess Beholder himself is a control on this team, just for the simple fact you can KO something and knock it out completely. The Billy Club and Dwarf Wizard, yeah. So that's wow. I didn't think about it like that.
That's 3 options over our none.
I'm proud of my nun.
Honestly, Chris's didn't really need it. It just got so like it's pretty fast. It's
Yeah.
very strong like
so
that.
one thing we got to remember is when you're in golden, the limits kind of go away. They're basically the ceiling there is none. So your options get opened up a lot more. A Professor X Global then makes it so much easier for you to just have 6 to 8 dice by second turn, and that's really saying something because you can still afford to do your thing that you want to do as well as have enough energy to buy something that's big on second or third turn. Which in modern it takes till at least 4th turn to get that kind of setup going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I was buying on my team was Riddler, just to try to get it as cheap as I could, and then try to buy the actions as cheap as I could, then try to rip over Beholder to put things over in the prep area.
Yeah, and you can do that reliably by turn 2, is by that
Yeah.
Riddler. So, I mean, it speaks volumes to the amount of power levels that there are in Golden Age versus Modern. So, this one, when you look at it, you're just like, okay, do I want to go all in on my combo or aggro, or do I want to have a mixture of control, or just, make it all control? And even then, that has some aggro options too.
Yeah. What's funny is in the post for that Robert put for the event, he said, "I want to play someone else with my team besides Chris." So I really like this team. I just thought it was a bad thing.
It's a bad mirror match.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing about it. I think it's going to be good against other teams. It's good control, the right amount of control, and just crazy ramp.
So much ramp.
Yeah. So, all right. So, do we have anything else we want to talk about? Say about this one?
I don't. I this Billy Club, I kind of feel like it's a little hidden gem. I mean, I know whenever we have a Thor draft, this is one of the ones that people gravitate towards if they don't get the rare, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good, man. I mean, it's like what Shocking Grasp, I think, or one of the other ones, Surprise Attack, that does 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you combine it with the Daredevil, and now you're also doing that 2 damage to your opponent. That I feel like that can go on any team. And a 3-cost fist Daredevil, it gives you life gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, I know it's only 1, but those Billy Clubs are cheap. You get a couple of them out there.
Yeah. On the first iteration of your team, you had Shocking Grasp, and it was just too slow.
Yeah, it wasn't good because it only did that one damage and it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like your team. I just want to see it on Saturday against other people. So
Matt said he forgot about that Billy Club. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad I
it's
could
one of
remind you.
those draft favorites that you know once you get it, you lock it down, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that was one that I was using in the draft, in the WKO draft.
Yeah. And I think you even had a Daredevil.
I don't remember if I did or not. Maybe.
I don't know. It's so long ago.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go into the the real deal here. What I really like. I think Robert really likes it, and Joe really likes it because he made it, and hopefully he likes it. But all right, it's
What?
all your show, man.
Well, I had a lot of ups and downs with this build. At first it was the Odin's Fury global, and then you know it evolved onto other globals. But then you know I found out a weird little interaction with it. Hang on, just one sec.
Yeah, I don't think I got to play against Joe the first time at the WKO. Kind
I
of glad I didn't.
I didn't either, but everyone that did play him like, ugh. They just did not like it. They didn't like playing against him.
Or did I play Joe? I think I did.
You
Did
did.
I play?
You did,
Okay.
and Chris didn't.
Oh, okay.
So,
Bad memory. I'm sorry.
it's had a few evolutions per se. Now that it's in Golden, that you can get to a second or third turn beholder a lot more reliably. So the interaction is with a common beholder. When fielded, you may use up to 2 different global abilities for free. And what I found out later on is if you have something that taxes the usage of globals, it gets around that because the ability supersedes anything else. So me having a Tomb Guardian out that says while he's active, global abilities cost 1 more to activate. I can get around that with just using the Beholder's ability, when fielded ability. So basically, the point is to get the Beholder out as early as possible with Rip Hunter's Chalkboard, and then once I have him out, I use a combination of Hela's Global, which says you could pay 6 to return target die to. Hang on just a second. To return target die from an opponent's field zone, prep area, or used pile to its card. That opponent then chooses target die from your field zone, prep area, or used pile and returns it to its card. So what I do is, in order to avoid them sending my beholder back, is I use parallax. So what I'll do is I'll use parallax's pay 1, reroll any number of your dice before your attack step. So if those dice that I have in the field zone roll down to energy any side, it then goes into the reserve pool, meaning that Hela's Global can't target it because Hela's Global only targets those 3 zones, which is the field zone, the prep area, or the use pile. It doesn't target the reserve pool, and it doesn't target in transition or the bag. So that's also a pro tip for anybody who's going to come up against it later. If you have stuff that goes directly to your bag, I'd prefer that you would probably want to have that. So basically, when Beholder is fielded, I put the Parallax on in the queue to go off first, and then the Hela ability to go off first. Now, what really makes this beautiful is that you have the common Madam Mask, which states, while she's active, your character dice cannot be targeted by global abilities. So that means that once the first part of the condition, which is return target die from an opponent's field zone, prep area, or use pile to its card, is met, that second condition, since it's in a separate sentence, doesn't have to be met. You do all that you can as much as possible for the global, meaning that while your Madam Mask is out, they can't target your active characters. They can still target the stuff that's in your prep area or used pile. So it just means that you're going to have to be a little bit more careful with what you want to have laying around there. But most of the time, what I'll do is, in order to keep on reusing my beholders when fielded abilities, is I'll use Fabricate. And there was many ways I did it. I chose to do Blue Eyes White Dragon, because you can KO more reliably and make your beholder cheaper. But then the reason why I wanted to do Fabricate was because it also has that added bonus of making your global abilities cost an additional one to use. So your opponent couldn't just turn around and hella you whenever they had 6. They had to pay 7, so on and so forth. And you also got to reuse the beholder. Like, so it could go off as soon as turn 2. As soon as turn 3 with the use of Rip Hunter's Chalkboard and having a sidekick out. So then you would field the beholder, use Rip Hunter's Chalkboard global, and Professor X if you had any in the use pile. Then with the momentum that you bought the first turn, you would, or the first or second turn, you would presumably roll it out along with anything else that was in your prep area. So Matt says that y'all discussed the MetaMask thing and we disagreed with what you were doing. If you choose to activate Hela, you should be vulnerable to it. What do I do if Rare Wrecker shows up? So on that one with Rare Wrecker, that one's kind of the tough one. You always want to try to do the Hela. This is pure combo. So what you always want to try to do is you always want to try to get your beholder out there first before anything else. If he has to take a hit and go back to the card, sometimes you got to do that. But yeah, with Rare Wrecker out, you gotta get him first with the Hela. And so there's like, if you guys have any suggestions on other control options, please, I'm all ears. But what we've done in testing is we've found out that a first turn Rip Hunter Chalkboard Constantine is really tough to deal with. So all is not lost because you still have a 165, a 054, or a 043 on the field that you can get multiples of. And so because it's cheap and because it's so good to use its ability, you still have like the ability to push all that damage. So the strategy is turn 1 momentum ripped over with a Professor X global on your opponent's turn. Then turn 2 is a beholder that's ripped with the roll of momentum. And then you can start your combo from there. I've actually, so in the WKO that these guys are talking about, I played up against a really good guy. He's a really good player too. He had a unique build that he brought there, but he wasn't ready for it. This is something that he had never seen before. So what I wound up doing was I wound up winning the lottery, so to speak, and I activated Hela 3 times in the same turn by constantly cycling through 2 beholders while I had the MetaMask out. So I was able to send back 3 of his cards, and he was still able to send back stuff in my used pile in my prep area. But the point was that I had cleared out damage, and by the end of it, by the time I had re-rolled with Parallax, both of my beholders wound up on their level 3 sides, and I had enough reserve energy to field both of those and swing at them for 12 damage. And so that kind of swung the game a lot. But anyway, back to the build. I have Cyborg to help me get those shields more reliably. And of course I have Resurrection for back management should any part of it go wrong. So, all right, now on to the Hela Global itself. It's pretty controversial with the use of MetaMask and Hela. I haven't had a clear ruling on it, but I've talked to PK about it, I've talked to Troy, I've talked to a lot of people, I've talked to Shadow about it, and they're unanimously saying that if you have MetaMask on your team, as long as you can satisfy the first part of the Hela Global, since the second part is a separate sentence, that's the thing that you do after that, you meet the requirements of do as much as possible. So while Madame Mask is out, I can't target my beholder with anything that I want to, and neither can the opponent that says specifically to target character die. With Madame Mask out, you can do Blue Eyes White Dragon on your own team, which is something that I thought about. But I just feel like fabricating is a little bit more reliable because I don't have to worry about spending that extra energy. I can just do it right then and there. But until we get an actual ruling, um, the TO Ryan at our game store, he ruled it the same way. He said as long as you can satisfy the first part of the requirement, you can still do it because you have a target on the opponent's side, and they don't have to have a target on your side as long as the first part of it is met.
And
And I
plus,
know that Go ahead.
fabricating when you fabricate and have the Tomb Golem in the side, and you activate Hela with the Beholder and your Tomb Guardians on the side, the person has to send the Tomb Guardian back so you can fabricate again. It's super freaking annoying. I hate that card. I hate it.
Tell us how you really feel.
I was
Please elaborate.
I was practicing against Joe, and he kept doing the Hela Beholder, and I was like, I don't want to send your Tomb Guardian back. And then Ben was in there with us, and he's like, no, sorry, you have to do it everything that it says on the card. If there's nothing there, you can't. But there's something there, you have to. It was just super annoying. Joe sets it up beautifully, and it just works so amazingly. And it's kind of trollish, honestly, but it's a good team. It's a good card.
Well, that's kind of what you want to. It's kind of what you want to do. You want to surprise people with your team. Something. Yeah, that's the thing that I like about that whole combo. So that's not something you go to an event and you expect to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's so random. You don't know how you're gonna play against it. Something like that. You're just like, wait, what? Like, I think when we were playing, Joe actually sent my Mr. Fix-It back to the card, and I was like, what? So I had to go through everything again and buy another Mr. Fix-It. Unfortunately,
And there were times
worked out, but yeah, it was like that's annoying.
there were times whenever in the WKO, there were times where I just straight up paid the 6 to send something back to its card without hesitation. And that's a luxury that you can do unless somebody has something out there that blanks globals. Is you can just beat them to the punch. You don't even have to have the beholder or anything out for that matter. You could just do it raw, the first or the second turn, and that's what, again, Golden Age makes this possible. So you could just use the 6 energy and boom, send something back to its card on the opponent's turn, and then it's just like you completely undid their turn. At the same time, you do kind of set yourself back, but it's not like you had bought, or it's not like you had purchased anything in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you're prepared for what you're going to do. They're not really wanting you to do that, and they have their tempo that they want to keep, and you're just totally disrupting. And it's really funny.
So, like I said, a Constantine does cause some problems. But again, if you see the opponent go for the Constantine first, that's not going to stop you from doing a Hela activation just raw. So you could work around that. And the fact that you have other threats in big bodies like Tomb Guardian and Cyborg, because those are still reasonably costed threats. And the reason why I like to take the rare Rip Hunter's Chalkboard over, let's say, the common is because I'm not too concerned with life gain. So there is a chance that I can still empty out my bag, have those characters, because all of those characters, as you can see, every single one of them are a shield or a mask. So I can then immediately benefit from just having that global, just playing it. And I can benefit from just playing the action itself and not worrying too much about the global and what it brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. If I had the rare Rip Hunter Shockboard, I would probably use it because the 2-cost action, especially when I was brewing hard with the Yanti, that would have been nice. But yeah, it's so crazy good for your team though.
So I will tell you all this, that the different versions of the brew that I've come up with have been the Odin's Fury, or True Believer, I believe it's a, they're functional reprints. And then there's Parallax, and then there's Madame Mask or Wonder Woman. But the thing about the Wonder Woman that you gotta watch out for, is that it stops your opponent's activation of Hela, but it doesn't stop your own activation of Hela. Because if you read what Wonder Woman says, while it's active, global abilities activated by your opponent cannot target character dice you control. So if they activate the Hela, then they can't target anything on your, field zone. It can still target use pile or prep area. So, but if I'm the one using it, if I'm the one activating it, it's my global. So that's why I opted for the Madame Mask that, prevents all globals from targeting. Yeah, right, Laurier. Sorry, not functional reprints. But yeah, you guys understand that True Believer is basically the same as Odin's Fury, and so I did have those out. And a lot of people have been saying that the rare collector does just as good a job. So what you would do is, and my very first iteration of it was, in fact, that setup is, I would get the rare collector, and then I would pay 2 for the beholder, and then I would, 10 more minutes, and then I would True Believer or Odin's Fury, the collector, and basically if they sent my beholder back, cool, he was going to go back anyway. But if they didn't, and they had another target, then I could just, go in with a beholder that was a beat stick. So either way you guys look at it, as long as that beholder can attack, and it's when Village ability is being locked down, you're still attacking with a big body. So it sort of works as a finisher in its own right.
Yeah, that's why it's so easy to brew around, is just because it's such a big body. And you can build around it to make it just unblockable or clear out a field with the different versions.
It's so the Hela Global itself is super controversial. One, because there's not a decent counter to it, aside from like a Blackbird, or if the opponent has a Madame Mask themselves. But the reason why it's controversial is because WizKids doesn't line out the specific interactions with globals that have 2 parts. Everybody's interpretation is either do as much as possible, or in Matt's case, where they ruled that you couldn't do it because it doesn't satisfy all the requirements, is picking the lesser of the 2 options and the less powerful of the 2 options, which is something that they recommend to a lot of judges. So it's kind of a weird balance that you have to find. You got to clear up. If you're going to bring a team like this, you have to clear it up with the TO at your local game store, or whatever tournament you're going to, because they have to know about the interaction. They have to see it. They have to call it by that interaction. Otherwise, you go in there, you just get a ton of problems from start to finish because the TO and all the other players aren't aware of what's going on. And if you're the only one doing that, then it's not fair to anybody else. Everybody has to be understanding on the table. And that was the great thing about WKO. Yeah, WizKids really should just roll on it officially. They've had a couple of questions asked, because I do know that in the Discord, the Dice Masters Online Discord, they have asked that question specifically. How does Hela work with can't be targeted stuff? And the rules form has not come back to us on it. And it's been since the printing of Hela is whenever that question was asked by 2 different people. I know that for a fact. So I can't tell you who they are. What's up?
It's not that long then, since it's been asked with some of the rulings that get ruled on.
Well, when you look at other things that have come up, for example, the uncommon Hela, that grants that grants everything immortal, and how that interacts with Jane Foster and whatnot. Those questions have been asked, and those questions have been answered.
Yeah.
And just, the immortal ruling itself, but still, when I was running it in Modern while this was legal, it was my favorite thing to run, because I am, as you guys can see, I'm all about combos, but more so about interaction. Because the thing that I didn't like about Golden Age a year and a half ago or a year ago was that there was very little interaction. It was just you set up your thing and they set up their thing, and whoever got to it first was the winner, right? This way, there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of like, okay, if I do this, is my opponent going to choose this? Or what do I do if my opponent chooses that? Um, yeah, I hear you on that. So basically, uh, I like to interact with the opponent, what they're doing. I like that my win con is still a win con in its own right, but the fact that I can just combo off with it super early. Like I said, in Golden, it's as early as turn 2. In Modern, it was as early as turn 3. And it was great. I mean, the feeling of it to be able to just slap your beholder down, re-roll it. If it rolled on an energy face and you had that 1 or 2 energy in reserve, oh man, that was like magical Christmas land.
That's funny.
Anyway, I spent too much time on talking about it, but I mean, what else do you guys want to add to it?
No, I mean that's great. Explain the details for people that don't understand how this team works. It's great.
It's a little deep and hard to understand when you first look at it, but once you start looking at it and reading it, you're like, holy crap, I don't want to face this team.
Yeah. It's one of those you sit down in front of it, you're like, okay, this sounds weird. I don't know how this is gonna work. And then you see it happen, you're like, what just happened? You're doing what now?
That's not fair. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
Really, I think that WizKids should take a more better approach. So, like, we have the Orc Stompa. One of the versions, whenever it's fielded, you can send something back to its card. We need more interaction like that to me because it twists the fundamentals of the game, right?
Mhm.
Fundamentals of the game are you start with dice on their cards, their perspective cards, you purchase said dice, you roll them, you use them, you KO them, right? Here you have the Hella Global, or as early as the Black Adam rare from Green Arrow and the Flash. You can tell I loved that because it presented a different layer to the game. It added another layer. It's like, what are you gonna do if I do the opposite of what the game's fundamentals are, and that is sending the die back to its card? What is the opponent gonna do? You know, it's one of those things where it's just like taking the game beyond its original intent, but still growing at the same time. I feel there's more room for cards that interact that way than there is for cards that just muck up the rulings. You know, like Immortal, I'm sure there was a good intent there, but after we got the clarification, it just made things seem less than what they actually were whenever we were first playing it. So I like that feeling, especially with Hellids. It's like somebody opens that in a draft and they go, man, this is way overcosted, but the ability itself is totally busted. I'll take that trade any day. And then somebody mentioned it. It wasn't originally my idea. Somebody did mention it in the forums. They said, hey, that new Hella card, how can we break it? Somebody said, well, you know, I can break it by making stuff cheaper. And then I was like, man, somebody was like, well, what about that Beholder card? And so I immediately went to the Beholder and I was like, you know what? You're right. What about that Beholder card? So from then on, I asked Dice Masters, I asked James and Zach over there at Dice Masters with James and Zach. I asked them, I said, hey, you guys want to test something with me? And then the very first video is of me testing the preliminary version of Beholder Hella with the Collector. And it was mean back then, and it's still mean to this day.
It's kind of memey now because what it does with that Hella and everything else in Golden that you can throw at it. Ugh.
So yeah, I mean, anytime anybody watching this video wants to talk about that interaction or specific builds, I would love to just gush about it because I could spend all day on it. But in effect, when we first started this series, we wanted to do it over our signature cards, but when you guys start answering because Chris has put out on Facebook about Brewers Corner, and really, Brewers Corner is my pet, but I want everybody to be involved in it because we already have videos that go over combos, and those are neat ideas. But if we don't get feedback for it, those are just combos that are our ideas, right? Oh well, that's such and such's combo, right? This isn't just Joe's combo. This isn't just Tabasco Rogue's combo. This is everybody else who decides to sit down at the table with it, right? They go, oh yeah, you know what? I brewed this up because I heard about it. Okay, cool. Our goal is to get one card, and it's 3 different rarities or 4 if it's like a starter pack card, and we're going to explore how you can build around it. We can come up with other ideas to make them better or other unique ways to use them outside of the norm. For example, with the Yanti Pureblood, you know, we saw different team lists for those a week ago, and I was really proud of you guys because we're trying to what we're trying to do is we're trying to grow in our knowledge as well as our ability to brew, because if we're thinking outside of the box, that's a brewer's life right there. You always got to be thinking outside the box. You always got to find that line that kind of enhances your creativity, but at the same time focuses in on a special ability or a special quirk about a card. So when we ask you guys after this signature series, we already have another one coming up.
We actually
Chris, I
have
believe.
we have a few coming up actually.
So if you guys do get any ideas, comment, or later on, if you find us in Discord, or if you happen to find the Discord and holler at us in Discord, say, hey, I was really thinking about this card. So, you guys can mention Vixen from Justice League, right? Her comment gets memed on so hard. We'll still run with that because we want to be able to test our ability as brewers, and we want to be able to grow along with the community as brewers. And that's what we're trying to do with the Brewers Corner. We're trying to focus on one card and its multiple sets of rarities to see how we can sort of make it work within the environment we're obviously Beholder's now rotated out to golden, so we had to work with golden. Matt,
Everyone says Kate Bishop. Everyone says that.
Laurier. So here's the thing. Chris was super excited about Harley's Hyena. So I think that is something we're gonna do. What we want to do with the brews that you guys suggest is we want to take them in the order that they're received, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it doesn't get worn out too. Because let's say by the time we come out with the Brewer's Corner for the Harley's Hyena, let's say the product miraculously hits the States, right? People will be tired of looking at it by the time we get to it. We don't want to wear out its newness, but at the same time, we don't want to lose out on our opportunity. So that is on our radar, specifically that card. Chris had made a joke about it whenever we were doing behind the scenes for the spoilers, and he was like, "Oh yeah, man, we're totally doing a Brewer's Corner on that."
And also on the Stompa. I love that Stompa so much. It did remind me of Joe right when I started reading it, and it just spoke to me.
So Kate Bishop, Matt, I appreciate the comment. So Kate Bishop actually is on our radar, and that's one that I eventually want to do. And I told the guys, I told them specifically that I will make that common work. I will make it work so hard for me.
Determined to make that thing work.
The bad thing that I feel about the Brewers Corner is I don't want you to feel like this way, Joe, but you always take the toughest card to brew with. Except for on this Beholder team, like I think Robert kind of had the tougher choice with here. I don't feel as though you should have to take the tougher card every single time. If you have an awesome idea, you can go with it. I do like I do want you to do the Kate Bishop because I think you're super excited about that, but I don't want you to feel like you have to take the harder card.
Well, to be honest with you, I tried to so for example with the Malekith, right?
Mm-hmm.
I tried to give that to you guys to brew with because you should all take the common Kate. You know what? That's not a bad idea though. We should all take the common Kate Bishop and see if we can come up with different ways to do it. Because the point is the uniqueness.
Yeah.
But no, getting back to what you were saying, Chris, I have zero problems with giving the harder ones to you guys. It's just, again, my instinct is to always challenge me personally with a card. Mm-hmm. So in what way can I make X card work is always my first thought. It's never, oh, how can I abuse this to power level 9,000, right? How can I abuse this to make it work for me in a WKO level? That's not my first train of thought. My first train of thought is, how can I make this card work in a different way than everybody else is going to think about it? Like a unique way that people might have to scratch their heads at first, but then go, oh, I see what you did there. Like with the Beholder Hella.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just I do think that we could all grow a lot just by using the tougher brews too. I think I've pretty much had the easier ones every single time, honestly.
I don't know. That uncommon Beholder was pretty difficult to brew with, though.
It was super easy, honestly. Just right when I got smoke, right when I put smokescreen on, I was like, oh wow, that's super ridiculous.
Yeah, it just opened up for him.
Yeah, like I don't think the smokescreen's a real one that like a lot of people use because they just don't like think about it, honestly. But once I got that
Iron Man War Machine is kind of like, yeah. People forget about it. It's that The one that gives overcrush is the one everyone thinks about. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Proton
Oh, the
cannon.
Yeah,
proton cannon. Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
know that, Robert. That's like on
I
your
know.
team.
I totally blanked for a second. I got it though. I got there eventually.
Where am I? Where am I?
So, Chris,
don't
to
either.
answer you, I'm definitely all for you guys brewing the tougher ones and coming up with, because that's what our goal is to make sure everybody grows. So,
Yeah,
to the
not.
listeners and viewers, well, Robert, man, you made yourself stretch with the super rare and this time, so I think it's perfect. I mean, your build is great.
Oh,
You came up with a different way to approach it than either of us were talking about whenever we were first talking about it, because you were like, man, how am I going to make this work? Because it requires a couple of pieces, and then you went with it in aces, man.
thanks, dude.
Yeah, we were. I feel bad because me and Robert like talked to each other a bunch while doing the thing for it, and Joe's schedule is like off compared to ours, and I wish we could brew with him a whole lot more, brew with you, Joe, than what we do, and it's just a little bit frustrating because you have good insight, and I like to hear your thoughts on things, and that's why I'm glad you're on the channel with us, but. It's a little bit frustrating because I want to get your opinion on stuff, and usually, like on what did I get your opinion? Was it like on Tuesday or Thursday that I just said, "Hey, man, here's my team," and you're like, "Okay, that's pretty good." Was it Tuesday?
I don't, yeah, I don't remember, but it might have been Tuesday or Monday. So what we can do is eventually we're going to plan on growing Brewer's Corner to where we'll talk about the 3 rarities of a card or 4. And I could do a random, I could do like a certain theme of the month. So for example, when product releases, I think we'll probably wind up, and this is something we all have to talk about as a group behind the scenes, but when product releases, we will probably give that priority, and I'm not going back on what I said previously about the making sure we don't wear it out, but at the same time, we kind of want to make sure that there's like the ability to get something fresh, like everybody wants to do. They want to open up that Christmas present. They want to take that Red Rider BB gun, and they want to shoot some bad guys with it, right? We're the same way. We want to take that stuff out of the box. We want to play with it. We want to hold it. We want to start brewing the minute we see those spoilers, which, trust me, we've already done so. We've been talking about it, just like you guys have.
We have some ideas of what we kind of want to do whenever the new product comes out, and it may not just be us enjoying the product with each other. I'll just say that. So I'm really excited about the new product. I can't wait for it to get here. I'm frustrated like everyone else, but I'm also excited there's going to be new product, and I know everyone on this channel is the same way. We're excited about the new product. We can't wait for it to happen, but it is a little bit frustrating. We can't wait for it. Paper cut in the eye. What are you talking about? BB in the eye?
Matt said we'll shoot your eye out, and I was like, well,
yeah,
with the new
it was
product,
a reference to the Christmas story, man. Come on,
Tell
take your
me-
references.
Tell me you've seen that, Robert.
I have not seen the entire thing.
Oh my
Oh my
god!
goodness.
You
All right.
need to not
Well,
talk
guys-
about movies.
When we're gonna start doing this every Friday, we're gonna try to. The goal is every Friday. We've got a couple of them coming up. We're gonna announce those later on, and in the meantime, we're gonna get Robert caught up on all the great movies so that he can get all the references that we talk about.
I know that reference.
we can say what the next one's going to be because the gentleman that suggested it is in the chat right now, and I mean we got to go hard on it because it's due next Friday. So,
This Malekith
yeah, Malekith.
from Thor.
I've got the super rare because I have the card and I kind of have a few ideas for it. What do you guys have?
I have the common, the villain maker one, I believe.
No, you have the uncommon.
The uncommon. I believed incorrectly.
Nice try, Robert. Nice try.
So
I sounded so
I'm-
confident though.
I'm tasked with the common, which again, not a lot of people use outside of draft, but I think it's pretty spicy. There's ability there. Again, like Chris said, we probably should. I probably should throttle back and let you guys take on the more difficult ones, or just the more obscure ones that people don't often put in the spotlight.
That's the actual Malekith that I used in the draft WKO.
Yeah,
The uncommon or the common?
The common one.
he forgets.
Yeah. The common's actually pretty good. A lot of people just overlook it because it's a draft playable. It's not a constructed playable.
I was ramping so hard with that thing, because I had that Billy Club, the 2-cost Billy Club, and I was just using that. Then I would prep a die, and I had another card that let me ramp also. I don't remember which one it was.
I don't know. It was ridiculous. By the way, it was Spot, I believe. But this is thanks to Michael Ingledew. He suggests the card. We're going to be going with it because of him. Michael's really good, and he beat the crap out of me in the tournament. Granted, I don't know. I think he's really good, and yeah, I love you, Michael. I love you so much.
Oh my god!
So, if you guys, the listeners and the viewers, if you guys have any suggestions, Chris left a post on Facebook. You can hit us up in the Discord. Say, hey, for the next Brewers Corner, can I request this? We'll tell you. We'll give you yes with a certain timeline. Maybe a few weeks out, because like we said, we've already got a couple of them in the works, but it will be every Friday, and we'll mix it up depending on the themes and stuff like that. And whatever you guys want to see, we'll more than likely just. We'll let you have it because we want everybody to grow with us. We want it to be an experience for everybody. We don't want to just put our content out there for the mindless masses to consume and then be done with it. They go on to their everyday. We want everybody thinking and being involved too.
And we will have special guests at certain points.
Yes.
Yep, that way you guys don't have to hear me talking 100% of the time.
The specialists of all the guests.
And I'll leave it at that.
Did y'all have a chance to go to the Facebook page and check out my storm pull that I drew as a possible giveaway card? I hope y'all did.
I watched you draw it.
You certainly did, sir.
And then I was just suggesting all kinds of things like you could draw Deadpool as this trick. You could draw Deadpool as this chick. And you're like, I don't want to just draw Deadpool as chicks, dude. Oh, man.
Thank y'all very much. I also drew a Batgirl. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Amikami Batgirl, but I drew it on a Batgirl card and while we were doing this, I just drew another storm. It's an actual storm. It's a black and white though. I'll probably post those up on our Facebook page, so go to our Facebook page and check it out.
Radioactive Man is not that hard to use. Managing to KO him by combat damage Laurier is the easiest trick in the book. With how many force block and force attack globals we have to use from in Modern and Golden. Modern less so, but Golden for sure.
Oh, Modern's about to get a few more, isn't it?
Yep. So. Anyway, I have to go. I've got some work to do and some kiddos to put to bed.
All right.
All right, cool, man.
We're going to end the stream here. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Sorry we couldn't do a full, hey, look at our faces, but that might be a benefit to you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But before we go, just be sure to check us out on Facebook or Twitter and join our conversations on Discord. The links for each are in the description below. Also, last but not least, be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for hanging out.